Baki may just be one of my favorite shows of all time. It takes the physics of martial arts and makes them into superpowers where you can do insane feats of skill. So with the upgrade in my narrative style, I think I'll redo this one to give it the true honor it deserves. I will be using Baki Hanma right after the Maximum Tournament arc if you were wondering, and he will be replacing Ezekiel on the Killer Bass. Will this be enough to win Total Drama Island? Let's find out. In episode 1, Baki would arrive and act rather aloof, not really caring about the events and introducing himself in his usual upbeat style. Everyone would be put off except for Tyler, who asks if his muscles are for real, sparking interest from Baki, who didn't expect anyone to really be interested in working out. He'd say, yeah, I work out here and there. Tyler would tell him that's amazing, he keeps drinking protein shakes, but it's like his arms won't grow. Baki tells him that's his mistake right there, he's supplementing it without giving his body any actual nutrition. Try chicken, rice, and broccoli, it'll do wonders in 3 months. Noah would say they can train their bodies all they want, all it amounts to is you having a smaller brain compared to your muscles. Tyler would be a bit insecure since he's always been on the dumber side, but Baki says that there's always going to be someone who's not important telling you that it doesn't matter. Don't be discouraged. Tyler in confessional would say that he loves Baki. He was afraid nobody here would get it, but Baki does. It's just like being back home. Baki would eat all of Chef's food without complaint, even asking for seconds, which shocks Chef. Baki would tell him that he has to give him the recipe, making everyone look at him like he's crazy, all except Owen, who says that he knows what he means. Courtney would ask if he's kidding, this stuff can hardly be considered food, and Baki replies by saying fuel is fuel. Tyler tries eating more, clearly hating it, while saying, yeah, fuel is fuel. When Tyler talks to Lindsay, Baki would tell him that it's a good call, his girlfriend made him stronger as well. At the first challenge, Baki would just be confused why they're diving off such a small cliff compared to what he dove off of when he was an early teenager. In episode 2, Baki would be the first to dive, doing it so easily it actually makes Chris wonder who they brought to the island. Baki wonders why nobody else is diving and says, oh, I get it, you need to see it again. He begins climbing the cliff, shocking everyone as he gets up at superhuman speeds. Heather asks what laboratory did he come out of, and Baki says he doesn't think it was a lab, that came a few years later after he could walk. They all are shocked by the absurdity of the situation, but Tyler breaks the silence by jumping, getting Baki to tell him good job. DJ would want to quit, but Baki would tell him that he's here for him. Just cling onto his back and he will jump off. Or would he rather they lose today? DJ hesitantly gets on and screams as Baki jumps off with him. In the end, Courtney is the only one who doesn't jump for the bass, while Beth is the only one who doesn't do it for the Gophers. Since Baki jumped twice, Chris gives the win to the bass, and unlike in canon, Baki's weirdness actually somehow molds the team into a team that works together well, causing the bass to win the first challenge. Heather would still apologize to Lashana so she's not public enemy number 1. Heather doesn't want to get rid of Beth since Beth could be a loyal pawn, so she enacts her revenge on Lashana and gets Justin, Owen, Izzy, herself, Lindsay, and Beth to vote for Lashana, pointing out that if Lashana was willing to hurt her today, they could be next. Lashana would be shocked, but Heather would have a smug look on her face which clues Lashana into what happened. She leaves angry that she ever believed Heather. In episode 3, Baki would win the first part of the challenge while leading the rest of the bass early in the morning. Courtney would absolutely hate this, as well as Duncan, who hates having to listen to authority in general, and Courtney asks if he'd be interested in an alliance and he says sure. The bass win part 1 of the challenge, and during the second, where they have to stay up as long as possible, Baki wouldn't stop Heather from stealing the MP3 player. He'd know she's a ticking time bomb of anger, so he'd just rather let the pot boil over to teach a lesson rather than fix it now. As a result, Baki would forfeit the challenge right before Gwen wins. He could win this challenge alone, but he knows that the only way to get rid of such a ticking time bomb who only brings down team morale through her anger is to just let it reach its boiling point and not by enabling it. As a result, Eva crashes out and she gets herself eliminated. In episode 4, the Dodgeball competition, the bass are immediately stacked for this competition. During the challenge, when he sees Tyler's messed up throw, he'd stop him from throwing another one and tells him to come with him. He needs to teach him how to throw. Courtney asks where he's going, and Baki says don't worry, he will be back to save them after they go down to nothing. Duncan would still be sleeping, but Courtney, in her desire to take the reins from Baki, decides to wake Duncan up, and when they get back, the opposite has happened. The bass are up 2-0. Baki would say he's impressed, and Duncan would say yeah, no thanks to you. Tyler would defend him, and Duncan would ask why he came back. They should just sit back while they win. Baki would say he feels like they need him now. They're not stupid, they already figured out your little plan. Now it's anyone's game. They need him and Tyler more than ever. Courtney would want to argue, but Duncan says that he's right. If Screaming Gophers have figured out a way to counter them, it's hopeless. They need Baki, and hopefully Tyler has improved at least a tiny bit. During the possible last game, Baki would take out a few members of the Gophers, but Tyler doesn't throw a ball, only dodging until it's just Baki and Tyler versus Owen. Baki stands behind Tyler and Duncan doesn't know what's happening until Owen throws the ball and it hits Tyler, but Baki slows his momentum so he can actually catch the ball thrown from Owen, causing the killer bass to win and Tyler to be treated like a hero despite not being the most important factor here. Duncan would say that was pretty cool, and Baki would say it was nothing, he's just glad Tyler caught it, or else he would have definitely wanted him gone. Duncan says you and me both. Noah gets eliminated from the Gophers. In episode 5 of the talent show, Baki would notice Tyler practicing his yo-yo tricks and he tells him that he's forcing it too much. Tyler says that he thinks he knows what he's doing. It's all finger strength, which Baki would say too much would just throw the yo-yo back at him. He needs to find the balance. Tyler practices more trying to find a balance so that when he shows it off to Courtney, he succeeds in doing a basic trick. Unfortunately, Courtney tells him that he won't be going in the talent show, making Tyler a bit depressed. He goes off and Courtney asks if he has any talents, and Baki says nope, I'm pretty useless. Right before the talent show, Baki would save Courtney from her violin being crushed by either grabbing her right before the light hits her, or by simply catching the light that Bridget dropped onto Courtney. Courtney would thank Baki for saving her, and Bridget would try to apologize, but Courtney says that she isn't going to compete after that, instead asking Baki if Tyler is available, which it would cut to Lindsay and Tyler making out, where Baki would say he's a bit tied up at the moment. Courtney asks if he can do anything, and Baki says that once again, he's useless, but Harold might be useful. Courtney says, really? Harold? And Baki says, yeah, what do we have to lose? If we do, we can just vote out Bridget. Courtney says, you know what? That's true. Bridget says, come on guys, this is unfair, you're putting my fate in Harold's hands. Courtney says that she hopes Bridget likes gambling because if she loses this bet, she's going home. Harold would win for the Bass with his beatboxing skills just like in canon, so the Bass win while the Gophers eliminate Justin, just like in canon. Episode 6 is a camping challenge. Baki would notice Katie and Sadie being left behind and would let them get lost, feeling as if it's a worthy sacrifice if they lose, or a welcome addition if they manage to beat the odds and come back stronger after a night in the woods. Unfortunately, the latter doesn't happen and they show up last. Not much would happen besides the canon events on the Bass, and when Bridget burns the tent down, Baki would be seriously upset as she ruined one of the most important things to him, sleep. As a result, Baki would tell Tyler that he knows that Sadie and Katie failed, but they can be strung along as extra votes. Bridget has failed in 2 consecutive challenges. He'd also get DJ to help reluctantly as he trusts Baki after episode 2, and Baki would finally get Harold to get 6 votes, aka majority, to eliminate Bridget. Courtney would be shocked thinking her plan was foolproof and immediately realizing Baki is smarter than he let on. Episode 7 is the Phobia Factor Challenge. Baki's fear would be failing to live up to his own expectations, which Gwen would point out that's pretty abstract. Tyler would bring it back down to earth by saying he's afraid of chickens. Baki would need to face his father, Yujiro Hanma, the strongest man on Earth, in a battle, and Baki needs to live up to his expectations. Tyler would say it's okay for him not to fight him, this guy's scary. Baki would say he's been wanting this fight for a while. Baki would fight Yujiro, and though he'd start good, Yujiro Hanma shifts the tides and makes Baki look like a mere child compared to a god. Yujiro would ask if he's satisfied with his progress, and Baki says that he is, but next time will be their final battle. Chris says that Baki has passed his fear. Yujiro tells Baki that he better not embarrass the family by losing to these chumps before jumping off the dock of shame and swimming back to Japan. Duncan asks if his father has always been like that, and Baki says for better or for worse. When Tyler needs to get in the box with a chicken, Baki would help out by getting into the box and telling him that chickens are just dinosaurs' most common ancestors. They should be respected, not feared. Tyler says that's why he fears them, they're so strong. Baki asks if he isn't strong, and Tyler says that he is, but they might hurt him. Baki says a lot of things hurt, but pain is a temporary emotion, and you can handle the pain of a chicken. With Baki's trust in him, Tyler is able to muster enough courage to complete the challenge. Courtney would still fail hers, so Bass need to go back to the elimination ceremony. Courtney would tell DJ that Jeff is really sad after he betrayed him last episode and voted Bridget off. The only way to make it up to him is by voting the way he wants tonight. DJ hesitantly agrees because he feels guilty. Courtney is able to convince Katie and Sadie that Baki flipped his vote last second, so at elimination, Tyler would be voted off. Baki would be confused and ask why Tyler is going. He did his fear. Courtney should be leaving at least, since she had the opportunity to win the entire challenge for them and failed. Courtney says that anyone that needs as much supervision as Tyler deserves to leave. Baki says that's certainly one way to look at it. Him personally, he thinks it's better for someone to need supervision than someone who doesn't try at all like you. In episode 8, when teams are canoeing, Courtney tells Baki to start rowing, and Baki asks why. If he tries, he gets voted off. Courtney says they'll vote him off if they lose, and Baki says not true, the most useless person gets to stay, or else you're a hypocrite, which won't look good when you're running for political power. This makes DJ and Jeff feel guilty since this is because of them voting out Tyler. Now their strongest member has given up while Courtney is the leader. Duncan would tell him it's not fair that he's punishing everyone for the mistakes of 5 of them, and Baki would say that's cute because he knows if he tried anyway and they lost, they'd vote off one of the 3 remaining that voted against them and not for one of their own. Duncan would ask if this is just about not having power anymore, and Baki says no, I don't care about power, I care about accountability, and Courtney was the reason we lost. You seem to really like her, which is cool, but you're letting her stay despite her not deserving to. I respected you because you were strong, but unlike in Tyler's case, I don't think you can make the hard calls and do the work to be the best here. You'll just let Courtney run the team when she isn't qualified to do so. Duncan says fine, I'm sorry, now will you try? Baki says that he never really asked for an apology, he just wants them to feel what a Courtney-led team would be like. Duncan would be at a loss and DJ would come over and says that Tyler doesn't want to see him like this. He voted for Tyler, he's sorry. Jeff said he'd forgive him for the Bridget vote if he voted for Tyler, so he did, not thinking about the repercussions. He wishes he could take it back, but he can't. And most of all, he doesn't want to see the person Tyler looked up to the most leave either. Baki would say fine, he'll try, but only because if we lose, we can vote out Courtney today. As a result, Baki and DJ both push the canoes back to shore to win the challenge for the bass. Izzy would get chased off by the RCMP like in canon. In episode 9 or Paintball Deer Hunt, the deer on the bass would be Baki, DJ, Courtney, and Duncan. Deer on gophers would be Cody, Heather, and Trent. Beth would have her moment with Heather and leave her alliance, while Cody would be face to face with a bear. Baki would decide to take out the bear with a single punch, and Cody thanks him profusely, and Baki would let his guard down and tell him it was nothing before he turns just in time to be hit by Gwen's paintball. Baki says, oh darn, guess I'm out. The Gophers are able to find Courtney and Duncan stuck together and take them out, and in the end, since Lashana isn't there to start shooting Heather, they'd just be split emotionally rather than also physically by them shooting each other. For the deer on the bass, only DJ managed to escape, while on the Gophers, Trent and Heather got caught, meaning Gophers caught more and win the challenge. Courtney would want Baki gone, but DJ says no, they aren't voting out the biggest asset here. The group all agree, pushing against Courtney, who agrees on voting out Katie or Sadie instead. In the end, Sadie is voted out, with even Baki agreeing to vote her out since she's kinda useless and hasn't grown at all since the time she spent in the woods. This puts Katie into overdrive as she realizes she needs to avenge Sadie. In episode 10 or the cooking challenge, Baki would just be required to cut the vegetables, because other than that, he doesn't really know how to cook. In the end, there's no way that the Gophers win with the Beth curse, so they lose and Beth is eliminated due to the curse affecting the team. Katie wouldn't let Beth take it away though, she'd take it from Beth, intent on having the team lose. Episode 11 is the trust building challenge. For part 1 it would be DJ and Duncan versus Gwen and Heather win like in canon. In part 2 it's Katie and Jeff versus Lindsay and Trent, and Katie purposefully fails it so Jeff gets poisoned, at least Trent won't be alone in the infirmary. For part 3, Baki must shoot apples at Courtney to hit an arrow off her head against Owen and Cody, and as it starts, the rope snaps on Baki's slingshot and instead he throws the apple, hitting Courtney on the head, but the arrow falls and pierces into the apple, giving Bass the point. In round 4, it would be Harold trying to catch Katie on the Gophers while Lindsay has to catch Heather. Katie is about to jump, but one of the boards breaks and she falls into the jellyfish along with Heather. Finally, for part 5, instead of DJ and Jeff getting propelled to the finish line, they just go flying off into the lake, meaning the Gophers win. Everyone would be split on who to vote for, and so Katie gets Baki, Harold, and a sick Jeff who's not in his right mind to vote off Courtney since her leadership isn't helping the team at all. Courtney tells the team that it's Baki who's the problem, not her, as she's taken to the boat of losers. Episode 12 is Chef's boot camp, and this is Baki's strong suit, just pure physicality. It would be even hard for Chef to be mad at Baki due to how good of a soldier he is. By the time the final part of the challenge comes, when they have to hang upside down, nobody can contest him. However, Baki would feel uneasy, like something is wrong with his team, and he needs to figure out what it is. He's had a weird feeling ever since episode 11. He goes to Cody and asks if anything happened in episode 10, which Cody says that Beth left because she had a cursed tiki idol that cursed the entire team. Baki would piece it together, but wonder who took it from Beth. He'd need to figure it out next challenge. For the vote, Heather would cause a tiebreaker against Cody, with Lindsay, Owen, and herself voting against Cody, while Cody, Trent, and Gwen vote for Heather. It would be the final part of the challenge once again, where Heather would beat Cody, meaning Cody would leave. Episode 13 is the Extreme Sports Challenge. For part 1, it would be DJ and Trent skydiving to land onto a couch, with Trent failing and DJ succeeding, but the couch folding back up and engulfing DJ. The next part is moose riding, where Jeff messes up for the bass while Gwen rides it perfectly. Finally, it would be Harold and Lindsay skiing while Duncan and Heather drive, with the same events occurring. After the challenge, Baki would gather everyone where he'd say that luckily he didn't compete today because he found something out. They've been cursed by someone here. Duncan tells him not to keep them in suspense, tell them who it is. Baki has Katie's bag and he pulls the tiki doll before saying it belonged to Beth and Katie got it before she left or went to Boney Island to get it. She's cursed us to make us lose. Duncan is pissed and tells Katie that she better have a good explanation since she's the reason Courtney left. Katie says it's because they booted Sadie without a second thought. They were having a good time until that happened. Duncan says that's the difference between them and a real contender in this game. They view it as a place to have fun and relax. For him, this place sucks, but it's where he needs to be to win the money. As a result of her actions, Katie is easily voted out by everyone else and she is excited when she sees Sadie on the boat of losers. Episode 14 is the Brunch of Disgustingness, and we start with a slight problem. There's 2 more guys than girls. As a result, Chris allows them to bring 2 guys to their side, and Heather picks Baki because he's always asking for seconds. And Gwen says she wants Trent. Trent says he doesn't know how well he will do, but he appreciates it. The girls' side would do better without the rivalry between Lashana and Heather and Cannon, with them all working together pretty well despite the circumstances. Baki would be a powerhouse of Owen caliber, and by the end it would be Owen versus Baki. Baki decides to drink 5 blended cockroaches at a time instead of just 1, allowing him to easily drink more than Owen before striking a victory pose as he's the winner. Heather would tell Baki that was amazing. Has he thought about an alliance? Baki would say sure, he needs a few friends if this team is permanent. And that's the end of Can Baki Hanma win Total Drama Island pre-merge. What did you think? I hope this is better than the first edition of this I wrote, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, have the day you deserve.